We are witnessing some of the worst, most disgusting, most downright demonic crimes and actions against a people group based solely on their skin color in the last, I'd say, 50 to 70 years. And it is something that people are ignoring and they're not talking about because it's uncomfortable and it's inconvenient, but it's happening. But this isn't the first time this has happened. And we need to zero in on who the actual culprit is and what do we do about the racial discrimination and violence going on in South Africa. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Quantizi with the Christocrats and the Red Pill Reality, here with another video shedding some light and some information and just truth on what is going on. Now, I need you at the outset, I need you to really pay attention to this video and watch it all the way to the end, because this is something that is very, very important that we need to talk about, that at least American news is not talking about, or they're slanting it or whatever. Some of you may or may not have heard what's going on in South Africa that's been going on for a while. And what it is there's, and I'm just going to call it as it is in this video, so hopefully you won't be offended, but if you are, maybe it'll offend you into some truth, to some action. Now, this is for believers. This video is for believers. So in South Africa, I don't know how long it's been going on, but it's been going on for quite some time now, where there have been an uprising of black militia men going into farm homes of specifically white farm owners and killing and maiming and burning and doing all the most evil, vile things to these, quote unquote, these white farmers. I'm talking about stuff like nailing children to their tables and burning them and chopping people up and thinking that it's great. And I hope that this video doesn't get flagged by YouTube, because it's very important that we talk about this. And, you know, it really is a racial thing where they are targeting white people. And it is causing outrage among white people, as it should. And what's going on is that a lot of the news outlets are not covering it like it should be covered, because it's an atrocity that is being perpetrated towards white people simply because they are white. Now, these landowners aren't people that owned any kind of slaves, or they're not people that did any kind of atrocities to black people back when apartheid was going on 20-something years ago. Granted, some of those lands were taken from the black people that were there, and they were killed and maimed and things of that nature way back in apartheid, and their excuse is that they are now taking that land back, and it's evil. It is evil, 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 evil. I want to preface everything that I'm saying with the notion that you get to understand that it is horrible and evil what is going on to those, quote, those white people in South Africa. And the broader spectrum is that you're seeing a rumbling of white people getting upset, and you can find it on the internet, getting upset, being pushed into a anger, because the culture has turned itself into, at least the left, liberals, have turned it into people having to be ashamed for being white, for having white skin, making white people now have to pay for the sins of their past ancestors. Making the general revisit sins onto the specific. And it's not fair, and it's not right, and it's an evil. And we as believers, black, white, green, yellow, red, need to call it out and say what it is. And it is evil, it's wrong, it is demonic. It's a demonic spirit. And it is the same demonic spirit that had caused Nazi Germany to throw Jews into concentration camps and eradicate them and skin them alive and use their skin for lampshades and try to change their eyeball color. It's the same demonic spirit that bought and sold black bodies like they're cattle, separating mother and child forever, chopping their feet off so they wouldn't run, branding them, whipping them till their skin flayed off their bodies. The same demonic spirit that enslaved the Irish because they were Irish. The same demonic spirit that targeted the Native Americans when they were here, being enslaved and killed and martyred. It's the same demonic spirit that makes people look at race. It's the same exact demonic spirit, check this out, that caused Miriam and Aaron to be mad at Moses for marrying someone who was not their color, who was not their color of skin. It's the same demonic spirit, and we need to call it out for what it is, rebuke it as Christians. Now, this is a message to my white, Caucasian, or lighter melanated brothers and sisters. The Bible tells us to mourn with those who mourn and rejoice with those who rejoice. And although many of you, I'd say probably the majority of you, have never had a racist bone in your body, there's a lot of you that I know personally that I love you and I would take a bullet for you any day of the week. But when this is happening and you're getting angry about having your culture being stripped away from you and being told that you're evil just because you're white, and being seeing some of your people that look like you being tortured and killed and nobody's really doing anything about it, and understanding that is an evil that needs to be stopped, and we need to pray against for it to stop, and someone with power needs to speak up and talk about it. However, what are we to do about this? How are you, as a white person or a lighter melanated person, to deal with this? As a Christian, what this should do, or I'm hoping that it does, is in your anger, and you have every right to be upset, but in that anger, let this give you a glimpse of how some of your brothers and sisters in the past have felt and have dealt with and had to deal with. The repercussions of seeing pictures and knowing family members in the past that were lynched, and knowing that the entire town came out to watch it. The atrocities of knowing that if you looked at a white person, and this wasn't that long ago, if you looked at a white person, then you could be lynched and killed, a white woman. Those atrocities that have happened. I'm not saying that obviously this is not your fault, and obviously this is not something that should be happening to anyone. It's a demonic spirit. I want you to remember that. It's a demonic spirit. But what I am saying is that maybe while you're upset and while you're dealing with the upsetness and wanting to be happy that God made you who you are, maybe this can draw you closer to those who are not of your race, and you can begin to kind of understand some of the pain, some of the anger that has been felt. And when nobody wants to hear what you have to say, and your culture is denigrated just because you are a different culture, and all the things that you have contributed, your culture has contributed. And at the end of the day, we need to realize that none of that needs to infiltrate into our the way that we live, because first and foremost, you are a believer first. You're not to identify as white first. So if they're offending someone and something because they're white, then you need to not be able to take that offense to heart, because ultimately, as a believer, you're a believer first. Now, it as an injustice, yes, but it is the same thing. I'm asking you to do the same thing that a lot of us have had to do and have done, which is see each person and each individual as it is, understand the atrocities that are going on, but rise above it. Rise above it through our love for the Lord and our love for each person. Let the atrocities wash over you. Speak out about them, but don't let it drag you subtly into the same feeling that would put us further into the corners, into each other's into different corners because of this skin tone. We're all the same thing that God created in God's image. White people are in God's image. black people in God's image, Asian people, all the, whatever, Hispanics, whatever, Indians, whatever nationality or ethnicity you are, you're made in God's image. So maybe we can understand that these atrocities are evil and wrong, and they come from evil, and racism and the ability to kill from racism is an evil demonic spirit that we need to rebuke. We need to stand against, lock arms together spiritually, and we need to rebuke it and ask God to cause it to stop. The heart of man is desperately wicked. And if we were all the same color, skin tone, then people would hate on someone else for having brown eyes or blue eyes or long hair, short hair, tall, short. We have the proclivity and inclination to group up with like people and hate on others, and it's a demonic spirit. It's demonic. It's evil. So in that recognition of it, why don't we begin to look at each other in the same eyes and understand that, you know what, now I get it. Now I get why some of y'all, a lot of y'all have been so angry and so hurt over the years, because the things that are happening to my quote unquote people have happened to yours in the past. And now we need to understand one another. Now that I can get it, I can understand the anger. Let's just all be angry together about racism, period, wherever it rears its head. Be proud of who you are. Be proud of what God has made you and what God has done, but don't let that pride, I'm not prideful about my black heritage, about my black race. I'm grateful for God putting me in this race. We've done a lot for the world. We've overcome a lot of things, but that's not ultimately where my pride comes from. My pride is in the Lord. My pride is in the fact that my name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life, and that I have brothers and sisters that don't look like me, but are more brothers and sisters than anything in this world, because we share the gospel together. We share the light of the gospel. I have brothers and sisters that don't look like me, have not come from my heritage, have not come from my background, that I know would stand arm in arm with me in battle. So let's do the same thing. Let's show the world, let's not let the anger happen, but let's be able to sympathize and empathize with each other and say, hey, you know what? That was going on in South, if I can say what's going on in South Africa is wrong. And the thing that's going on in the Western culture, where they're targeting white people and telling white people, especially white males, that you are no longer important, that everything is your fault, and all that crap. If I can see that is wrong, then maybe you can kind of see where me and my culture has come from and what we've dealt with, and maybe not brush it off. I'm not saying that a lot of you have, but if you have kind of like gone through life and not really understood what the hurt and pain was and why people are so quick to jump to it, it's because the pain is real, and maybe you're beginning to see some of that happen. So let us come against all of it wherever it rears its head. Real racism, not fake racism, not ginned up racism, but real racism. The racism that's going on in South Africa is real. The racism that happened with that dude who's a superintendent at the school here in Georgia is real. What happened to people, being drugged down the street, because they're black, and drugged down the street from a truck, that's real racism. Let's all stand together and come against that wherever it rears its head, and we will see God move. I refuse to allow anger and hatred and that spirit of racism to infuse and come into my heart. I refuse to do it. I think I'm going to do a live stream about it. We love you guys. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this can bring some healing and some hope to you guys. The Bible and loving the Lord usurps every difference that we have. And matter of fact, what it does is it brings grace and peace, and it brings out all of the great things about our differences, so that we can fit together as a puzzle and do the work of the Lord and bring people into light, because you have what I don't have, and I have what you don't have. And if we hate on that, then nothing gets done. But if we celebrate our differences and know that those differences are there from God, and we work on our individual shortcomings, then we will see something great happen. So don't fall into the sin of anger because of atrocities happening to you. Begin to sympathize, speak out about it, speak the truth in love. And remember, love God, hate sin. We're not left, we're not right, we're not black, we're not white, we're up.